100 is 100 movies. This one's a little weird. We're doing Diamonds Unbreakable, the live-action version of the first volume of Part 4 JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is a little bit of a departure. I'm talking about something that I'm a little more familiar with, because I know this story. I know, I've watched it twice, and I've read the first volume, so I know this exact story like the back of my hand. But the movie version of it is actually not that bad. See, if you aren't familiar with like live action anime, then you would know that usually they're not that great, especially during this that time period. The only good one has really been One Piece, and honestly, in my opinion, this one. I don't think it's that bad. I think it gets a lot of slack. I think, like, in general, it gets kind of hated on. I've seen clips of it, and I've heard people talk about it in a kind of negative light, but I actually think it's not too bad, and I think it does capture Part 4 to an extent. You do not have to have read Part 4 really to understand this, or watched it in any type of, to any degree. The anime hadn't come out yet at this point, so it was definitely kind of a new story, and most people didn't read Part 4, and it wasn't released, I don't think, in America. It definitely wasn't dubbed, because no one really in America knew about JoJo's until it started getting animated in 2012. Again, if you're watching this video and you haven't read or watched Part 4 or watched JoJo at all, you don't really need to understand this review. I'll kind of give you a brief synopsis and kind of get you to watch this movie or read or watch JoJo's Part 4. I personally have a soft spot for it. I really like it. I don't really like anime as a whole, but I do like JoJo's. It's definitely a standout to me. But, well, to preface, I don't like it anymore. That's kind of a remnant of my old past. I never really took it down because I think it looks cool on my bookshelf, but still. Part 4, this is genuinely the only thing up there that I still really like to this day. One Punch Man Season 1 is really good, so I do like those. So in other words, this movie isn't that bad, and if you were to watch this without any prior knowledge or any idea of what JoJo's is, you would still kind of like this movie because it's still a good story. Again, brief synopsis, this guy named Josuke has something that people call a stand, which is basically the spirit that is a manifestation of your fighting power, and it comes forth and it has an ability in relation to basically your inner desires, basically. It has a connection to what you believe in, your ideals almost. Each person's stand is a reflection of themselves in a different way, and Josuke's is the best at basically degree of that. And Josuke basically has a stand, and this guy named Koichi kind of meets him, and they go on basically an adventure to kind of hunt down this guy who's been awakening other people's stands, starting with a murderer who has gone and now killed Josuke's grandfather, and he's basically going on a revenge spree, trying to find out who caused this, and he took down the murderer. I'm not going to try spoiling it too much, but in general, Josuke pretty much succeeds at every step of the way, because this is the first volume of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4. The movie only covers about 12 chapters, which isn't that much. It actually only covers, I think, about 6 episodes in the anime, which is not even like an eighth of it. So if you're watching this, know that this is not the full story. This is a very small glimpse. It's actually just an introduction to the characters. So you definitely feel that as you're watching. It's more of an exposition than anything. This is kind of like how Across the Spider-Verse is. It's meant to set up for something greater, but they just never did it. But still, again, you still get that picture. Josuke is an interesting protagonist no matter how way you split it. His whole thing is compassion. He's a kind man. His ability is to repair everything else but himself, which reflects very well. He also has a sense of rage to him. He has a sense of justice. If something he sees he deems is wrong, he'll go out of his way to fix it, rather repairing it or destroying it. And again, he's an interesting character with an interesting kind of world that he's living in. So watching this movie, it still captures that feeling. You're watching Josuke and you want to root for him because he has this idea of justice and this idea of rage. His whole thing with his hair, they never go into it, which is sad. But the reason he cares about his hair so much isn't a personal thing. Again, this is minor spoilers for the manga. The reason why he cares about his hair so much is because the person who saved him when he was a child had the same haircut, so he adopted the same haircut as the person who saved him as a child. So when people disrespect his hair, they're disrespecting the man who saved his life, and he can't stand for that. Literally stand for that. So he basically loses his shit. So yeah, Part 4, this movie is not bad. It captures that degree. It still hits all the major plot points that you need. They switch it up at the end. You wouldn't get this unless you read it. Basically a villain, something happens at the end, a twist happens, and what happened, it's the same story beat where a character, something bad happens to a character, but in the original, it was a different villain who did that to the character. It was Red Hot Chili Peppers in the manga/anime, but in the movie, it's Killer Queen and Sheer Heart Attack. That means nothing to you if you haven't read/watched it, so sorry about that, but just know if you're watching this, what happens at the end is actually not how the original story goes. But again, it still is intense, it's still interesting, and it still sets up the next part of the story pretty well. And I actually don't think it's that bad that they did it in that order. I think it definitely makes it more easy to adapt it into maybe 2 or 3 parts instead of, well, there's like 10 volumes. So it's kind of making it easier for them to adapt it into a movie series instead of how the show ends up going along with it. So yeah, I honestly like this adaptation. There is definitely some bad with it, but how they depict stands is actually not that bad. I think it's actually kind of cool how they depict stands, and I think if you were to watch this with absolutely no idea what's going on, you would still find it to be a pretty cool movie, because the premise is cool, the gimmicks of it are cool, and the characters are interesting enough, so it stands out its own regard. I think, though, this movie definitely goes for way grittierness, and that is one of my major dislikes. Part 4 is supposed to be more slice of life. It's supposed to be lighthearted. Josuke is supposed to be a more fun character. He's supposed to be way more, like, not cool. He's not really the badass. If you're watching this movie, it kind of puts him in a bad light, where he seems to be this, like, gritty, to me, bastard, like that type of stuff. But in the, like, the original, he's kind of like that, but they kind of cherry pick the scenes where he does that, but you kind of miss that fun-loving, joyful kid that he is, because he's only like 16 years old, but in this he feels like he's like 30, and I don't like that aspect of it, and I really wish they kind of went for more of a lighthearted stance on the whole thing, because part 4 is meant to be like one of the most lighthearted parts. There's evil in it, but the whole point of the story is that they're only destroying the evil to preserve the love and the lightheartedness of the world that they're in. Morio is set up to be its own, like, character itself. It's this lighthearted, beautiful town that the protagonists are trying to preserve. Josuke is actively trying to repair what is going wrong, and I feel like the movie doesn't really capture that. It doesn't capture the love that the characters have for this town. And the town itself is more of a city. It's more of this, like, almost like Dread style city. Like, I literally could draw connections to Dread to this movie, which should not happen. That should not happen. This movie, Morio is supposed to be this, like, joyful town, but has a dark side that the characters are exploring and trying to destroy. And I feel like the movie should have captured that a little better. So yeah, that's the movie. I would highly recommend watching it, especially if you've read it, because you can see, like, kind of a mistranslation, but it also is kind of interesting how they were trying to capture this. It's not a fantastic movie, but again, if you were to watch it, I think you would kind of see where I'm coming at. It's not a bad film overall. I think it gets a lot of slack. If you watch it and see kind of the flaws I see and you kind of focus on them, you'll kind of be taken away from what I believe to make this a good adaptation. But still, it is not a perfect movie. That is the truth. The gritty take on it, the scenes go on for a while. They don't capture the same, like, aha, outsmart moments that the book and, like, anime really get. The music also just isn't as good. The scene where he defeats one of the guys, the whole "Hey Angelo" part, it's not as good, and it definitely feels detached. I could see someone watching this and heavily disliking it. I could see someone watching this and loving it. I could see someone watching this and just think it doesn't capture the original as well. But at the end of the day, I think it's still a good adaptation. I think it does it better than many other adaptations do. Because what do we have this to compare to? The live-action Death Note? Like, are you kidding me? Have you seen the live-action Death Note? This is a godsend. This is, like a masterpiece compared to the live-action Death Note. And that's what I'm kind of comparing it to at the time. And there was still kind of a lot of love put into it. Jotaro and all the character designs are actually not bad. And I actually kind of like Jotaro's character. He kind of stays in line with the original. I think it's pretty interesting. The grandfather's death is still a pretty emotionally charged scene. And when he comes down the stairs and he basically gets all mad, that's the Josuke you love. Because he's upset that someone got harmed that he's close to. That's the Josuke that is in the originals and that it should have been depicted as. But he's just always in that mood, so it kind of takes away from that part, because in the original, when Josuke gets mad, you're like, oh shoot, things are getting serious, because usually it's pretty lighthearted, usually it's pretty fun-loving, but he's just always mad in this, so that's my major problem with it. But again, it's not bad at all, and I think it genuinely has its own degree of love put into it, and I think if most people watch this, they would actually kind of enjoy it. So in that regard, I'm going to give it a 7. I know you were probably expecting something a little higher, but again, the flaws still are pretty clear. I just kind of trying to hype this up for someone to go watch it and kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I think a solid 7 is fitting, but a 7 is better than like a 2, because like live action Death Note is like a 2. This is like a 7, and I do think it's good in its own degree. So yeah, please go watch this. This is part 4. I think it's just called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable Part 1. The movie is called that. They never made any other parts because this wasn't that successful. It's not incredible, but it still is able to capture the original, and it still is a decent story on its own, but it still has a lot of glaring flaws. But I do think that it has some love to it, and I think that you should definitely still watch it. It's free on YouTube, actually. Like, right now, it is free on YouTube. That's how I watch it. No ads. Free on YouTube. Go watch it. It's not bad. Sorry if you didn't really like this one, because it's focusing on something that I already knew, and that's something that, if you don't like anime and manga, which I understand why, you might immediately be detached from this video and detached from this movie as a whole, but still, I think it's good in its own degree. And if you watch this movie and you have not read the original, not watched the original, if you watch this movie and you like what you see, watch the original. It's on Netflix if you have it, and this volume I think was like $30. Actually, no, it was probably like 20. Go read/watch part 4, because again, I'm not a huge anime fan anymore, but I still really like JoJo's, and I cannot move past how much I like parts 2 and 4, especially. Part 7's getting animated, got a top IMDb, but part 4 specifically, if you watch this movie, have not read or watched it, go read and watch it, because you will love it. Because if you like this movie, you will absolutely love the book and the anime. So yeah, skip, do not watch parts 1, 2, and 3. Watch maybe part 2, but skip part 1, because if you watch part 1 and you're not an anime fan, you're gonna hate it. But watch part 4, because part 4 is definitely still really good. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on the topic. This video is really long. Again, if you're new, I don't like structure these well. I kind of just rant on because that's my style. But sorry about that. That's how I am. So yeah, that's my review on the Diamond is Unbreakable movie. There's a lot to be said about it, and I think you should definitely go watch it. But there is a lot of glaring flaws, and I want you to see them for yourself, because it's very evident. You don't need someone to sit here and explain it to you. You need someone to get you to go watch it. So stop watching YouTube videos. Go watch a movie. This is the one you should watch right now. There are better movies to watch. You can go down my list to see which ones I rated highly, but this one is still really interesting, and I want you to see it. So yeah, that's part 4. I've gone on way too long. Goodbye.